Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by some of my favorite husky, hairy, huggable homos to talk about film. We love it. We see tons of movies. Might as well get together once a week to talk about said movies. And this episode, 336, is going to be all about our favorite slash most anticipated movies that have yet to come out in 2019, but are on their way. That's right. We're going to be discussing kind of a preview of fall and winter movies that we're looking forward to seeing. And as we go through our most anticipated movies, we'd love to hear yours too. So whether you're in the live chat with us as we're recording, and hello if you are, feel free to share your picks in the live chat. And if you're catching the show, on delay, that's perfectly fine too. Hello to you. We'd love to hear your picks in the comments. So feel free to let us know what you think. And we'd love to chat with you about said picks. But we're going to jump into ours here very shortly. Before I can do that, though, let me introduce those husky, hairy, huggable homos I mentioned. Jim Pugliafico is with us. Hey, Jim, how you doing, babe?
Hey, I'm here. I'm doing good, I think. Fresh off a great weekend, great long weekend. It's funny how like these long weekends they're always too short. You know what I mean? Like, you go into these long weekends, oh man, got an extra day off, and get to the end of it, they all still end. You know what I mean? They all still come to an end. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to hear what movies we're going to talk about. I know three of them. Well, actually, I kind of know all of them at this point. But I'm looking forward to talking about all of them. So hope we have some listeners out there who will share some of their most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. Welcome to anybody who's joining. So here we go.
All right, excellent. Well, even if you know all the picks, Jim, I think it's going to be fun to talk them through.
Uh,
So I'm jazzed to get into it as well. But before we do that, let's welcome Will. I don't know why I said that like a game show, but Will Lindis, welcome back. How are you?
I'm cheering. I'm standing up in my seat. I'm running down. I'm the next contestant on The Price is Right. It sounds like.
Sorry, it was actually Let's Make a Deal.
Oh, so let's make a deal. All right. Well, I guess I should have checked door number 2.
it could be like, come on in, guys.
Oh yeah, I take that.
I mean, that's Survivor, but that could work too.
I gotta say though, this weekend, you're absolutely right. It was a long weekend for me. 3.5 days of not being at work, and we had our big annual bear run here in Austin over the weekend.
Oh,
so
that's
it
right.
was just absolutely full of people from all over the country, and it was fun. It was fun.
Nice.
A
Well,
good time
good.
had by all.
Glad to hear you had a
I
good time.
Saw some of that stuff posted on Facebook and stuff, and was nice seeing that. A lot of friends' faces having a good time. It was awesome.
It's
I
always a
didn't.
great time.
I did not see any of those posts, but we spent the long weekend up at a cabin in northern Arizona, and I was trying to unplug as much as humanly possible. So I kind of like stayed off Facebook a lot over the weekend, but I'm glad everyone had a good time. Will, that's awesome. Jim, you and I had a good time. We got to watch some movies and hang out with some friends in the
Yeah.
cabin, which was definitely nice. But now it's back to the grind.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even watch that many movies. I mean, it was mostly relaxation. I mean, that's what we were up there for, like the fresh air
Yep.
and peace and quiet.
Amongst
I-
other
I
things.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I get
yeah,
it.
I'm sure you do.
I mean, there was a bearskin rug. What are we gonna do?
Ooh, okay. Obviously not watch movies, it sounds like. Yeah, none here either. Pool parties and endless supply. Yeah, well, that's, ours was like a big pool party, and then just lots of time for some extra nerd stuff too. It was our D&D weekend as well. So just,
Nice.
I like that we're doing this episode, our preview episode, looking ahead to some of the movies that we're excited about, because I feel like the last few weeks There's been like a thing here or there to watch and be excited about, but I haven't been just as excited to run to the movie theater and binge everything. And this episode has really got me re-energized for film.
Well, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely good to kind of plug into things that are coming up and uh, soak up some of that excitement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will. I mean, I know you're coming off of Agliff, right? So you had a bunch of film like a week ago, and you've got Fantastic Fest coming up. So you're probably kind of enjoying this bit of a lull, kind of recharging the movie batteries a little.
Yeah, but it picks up really soon. Like I was just looking at the calendar, and so our friend of the show, friend of all of us, Simon stays with me every year for the festival, and he'll be arriving in about a week. So it starts up soon. It starts up soon, you guys.
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead
Okay.
and jump into our fall and winter preview movies here in just a sec. Before we do, it looks like we've got several folks who are hanging out with us in the live chat. Just wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin and Hamstracked and everybody else who's there with us. We've already got some choices being put in the chat. But again, if you want to share your most anticipated films yet to come in 2019 relative to when we're recording on September 3rd, 2019. Feel free to drop those in that live chat or, again, the comments if you're listening on a delay. Jim, Will, we got a whole lot of movies to talk about. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Our chat room is already filling up with movies, so we better get going.
All right. Well, then here we go. Our fall/winter movie preview. All right, so we are going to chat about some films we are super stoked to have coming down the pipeline for the back half of 2019 at this point. We'll just go ahead and kick things off. We'll go one at a time, I guess. I don't know. Has everybody ordered theirs in like chronological order? Does it matter?
I've got mine in chronological order.
Yeah, so do I, but they bunch around here and there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Mine are in chronological order too. I don't know that it's that important, but for our listeners, you can maybe follow along if a movie we talk about sounds super interesting. Maybe take some notes as you go so you don't miss out. But Jim, let's go ahead and start with you. What's the first film you're excited for yet to come in 2019?
Well, there were a lot to pick from. I did notice that many of the movies that I'm super excited about come out maybe toward the end of the year. More than I would say more end of the year movies than fall movies. I think that just kind of happens because there's this lull between, the summer movie season, which we just came off of, and then things kind of quiet down in terms of like more anticipated releases to getting to kind of toward the end of the year when we get a lot. And also some of these movies that come out toward the end of the year might be limited releases, so I can't guarantee when they're going to be available, even to me, if I'm going to be able to see any of these movies before the end of the year. Well, not any of them, but at least some of them, so it'll be interesting. But my first movie is a drama that caught my eye by writer-director Noah Baumbach, who did Frances Ha and Mistress America. And this one stars Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver, kind of a powerhouse duo of actors there. Really hot in terms of their kind of gravity right now and the impact that they make. This one's called Marriage Story. This one looks pretty interesting to me. It's definitely one of those heavy character drama films, at least from what I can see. It looks like it's about, a really heartfelt story about a relationship, a marriage here, where, Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver's characters are married, raising a family, and it looks like they're actually going through some troubles, maybe a divorce or a breakup. I only know what I've seen in the trailer. I don't go and research these movies very much, but This one looks great, and I would suspect, that we could see some Oscar-worthy performances out of this movie, perhaps. Maybe even director or screenplay. But I mean, Adam Driver is about as hot as you can get right now in terms of actors in American cinema, anyway.
I will be in all the movies.
Yeah, exactly. I have 2 movies on my list, by the way. He's got a bunch of movies coming out at the end of the year, and it isn't just the 2. Even besides the 2 I have, there's others. So he's kind of like loaded up the end of the year. So apparently somebody's trying to push him for, best actor. I suspect we might see him get a best actor or best supporting actor nomination. Only because the strength, I watched the trailer and it seems like a really strong movie with a really strong script. I have seen a little bit of buzz coming out of some of the festivals. I think it was Venice that just ended, or Telluride, or both of those. And this movie screened there, Marriage Story, and I'm only seeing people say positive things. So, that's my number one. My first anticipated movie. It comes out in November, but it's limited, so I don't know when we're actually going to see it. It could be like a lot of these movies where we may not see it till January or February.
I think that anytime Noah Baumbach has a movie nowadays, it's sort of like a slam dunk, like I'll 100% watch it type scenario. Because, I mean, you mentioned, like, we have Frances Ha, which I think was one of the top films of 2012 pretty easily. I think you could make the case for Meyerowitz Stories from 2 years ago.
Stories, yeah,
as being an example of a director taking someone who's can be hit or miss as an actor in Adam Sandler, and which will be an interesting discussion, I think, in
a little while. Yeah,
but taking someone like that and just really bringing their strengths to the forefront. And then, of course, I think Mistress America was very underrated from a couple years prior to that. So I'm on board. I'm 100% on board.
Cool. Brad, I'm not sure you've even heard of this movie yet.
I haven't, but that's okay.
That's all right. Yeah.
Again, I actually try to avoid watching trailers as much as possible, so that I'm not, I don't know.
Taint.
Like I think Jim, sometimes you can watch trailers for like 2 or 3 hours at a time, and I'm like, no, don't watch them. Like, I don't want to be sullied. I would say I want to be unsullied, but that has a Game of Thrones connotation that I want nothing to do with. So I'll just say I would.
And the stones, Brad.
The pillar and the stones, Your Grace. But yeah, I mean, I think I would probably see this one with you. I like Adam Driver a lot, and you said Scarlett Johansson, right?
Yep, Scarlett Johansson. Yeah.
I mean, how can you go wrong with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson?
Right.
Can I throw one more name at you, Brad?
What's that?
Laura Dern's in it too.
Now I have to see it because I fucking love Laura Dern and she's amazing. So that's going to happen.
I kind of figured that would be the RBI. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, great first choice, Jim. Will, what is your first pick?
So my first pick is one that I'm looking forward to for 2 reasons. And it's Joker, which comes out on October 4th, so right around the corner. Directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. So this movie looks complicated for a lot of reasons. The first round of screenings have happened for it, and they've been very, very positive. I think the trailer looks pretty solid as well. I'm pretty interested in it. This movie, for anyone that is not sure who the Joker is, it's the DC villain, the Joker, but done as like a standalone art house style character study. This man who's like disregarded by society and sort of like indulges in these darker things. This is complicated because this movie is coming out in 2019, and the context of that exact backstory is very, very heavily weighted with a lot of the things that are happening in the news. The main reason I want to see this, aside from the fact that I'm interested in seeing it for myself and interested in seeing how the reviews are, I'm interested in being on the other side of the discourse on this one, if that makes sense. Like,
other side.
Yeah. So right now, Twitter is absolutely fucking bonkers right now, just talking about this movie, and like there's a lot of weight and expectations and a lot of things being hung on this movie, and I feel like I want to be to the point where I have seen it and have my own opinion and can be past like probably the most toxic parts of the conversations which are going to happen during that first week. So I'm looking forward to seeing the movie, but I'm also looking forward to it so that I can be on the other side of what's probably going to be an online shitstorm.
Yeah, get ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it happen already. Like, so many people on Facebook are like, Joaquin Phoenix, # not my Joker. And I'm like, do you guys remember when Heath Ledger was announced as Joker? And everybody was like, oh, not that fag from Brokeback Mountain. And I'm just like, oh, geez, really? And then he ended up being like, just about everybody's favorite Joker on the face of the planet. And now some of these same people who back then were like, oh god, not Heath Ledger, he's going to be terrible. Now they're like, Joaquin Phoenix, really? This is going to be so dumb. This is going to be awful. So, I mean, my hope is, obviously it's going to be hard to approach Heath Ledger, legendary performance as the Joker, but I don't know. Joaquin Phoenix has got some pretty hefty acting chops, and watching the trailers, I mean, I definitely like some of the things that they're kind of doing with this character. It'll be interesting to see how and if it ties into other DC films. Like, is the new Batman going to be connected to this Joker at all? Is it completely standalone? I don't know, but I'm curious to see.
Yeah, this one has a totally different tone than any other like superhero movie, even origin stories, I think, that we've seen in in either the DC or the MCU. This one feels like a movie, like a character study, more like something like Taxi Driver was, right? This looks like the Taxi Driver version of imagine if the character from Taxi Driver, I forget what his name was, but if he went on to become like a supervillain, right? This is what this movie kind of reminds me of, and so I'm kind of excited for it. It's got this weird tie-in with, and this is not a spoiler, a weird tie-in with like the King of Comedy movie, with Robert De Niro.
Yep.
Which looks kind of cool. And you're right, Brad. Like, I'm looking to see how in a movie like this that's not about superheroes, how they're going to try maybe to have these maybe little subtle strings to what's going on maybe in the DC, in the DC universe with regard to other superheroes or whatever. But this one looks really interesting to me.
And it's going to be a lightning rod for a lot of things. I mean, the Taxi Driver story, the story of like falling down, or the type of person who like, character has been feels like he's been shit on by society, so lashes out, plays remarkably differently right now based on just all the shit that's happening. And so it's sometimes it's unfair that a movie has to carry like all of like the weight of like social politics on its shoulders, but this one is starting to bear some of that. And I don't know, I'll have to see how it plays out. We'll have to see how everything goes. I think it's going to be, regardless of how it ends up turning out, I think there's going to be some really fucking awful conversations that stem from it, but I'm hoping there's some really good ones as well.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you could put out a movie today, and especially in a DC movie or a DC, related movie, and avoid the cesspool of fandom and haters that are out there. I just don't think it can be done. So you just kind of let the art stand by itself and go make your own judgment about it after you see the movie, hopefully.
Make your own kind of music.
And past the superhero stuff, even if this wasn't a superhero thing, there are conversations online happening right now about like how does this tie in with like incels and alt-right and like all of that shit as well. So there is just a lot that this movie is going to have to like wade through and support. But again, Todd Phillips is the director. Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro are in it. It's got some decent people attached to it, and the reviews have been good so far. So I just want to see it and make up my own mind.
I think that's the best way to go. You mentioned some crazy conversations happening. We've got a good conversation happening in the live chat right now, between Kevin and Ryan and Hamstracked, all about Jared Leto as the Joker. He was the most recent Joker. Whether Joaquin Phoenix will even be as good as Jared Leto. I don't know. We'll see. What's the release date on this one, Will?
Release date is very soon. This one is actually coming out on October 4th, which I think is one of the earliest of the movies that we've got. Yeah. Right around the corner, less than a month.
Less than a month at this point. So, alrighty. Well, moving on. The first movie in my lineup. It's not coming out in movie theaters. Is that okay?
All right. It counts. It's a feature.
It's a movie.
Yeah. It's a movie coming out to Netflix, which is replacing movie theaters anyway, right? So
here we go.
Yeah.
Never.
So the movie that I'm referencing comes out on October 11th, straight to Netflix, and that is El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. I realize this is a movie based off of a TV show, but it is a movie, so I feel like it counts. I can be excited about it. The film is a follow-up to Vince Gilligan's hugely successful Breaking Bad, which, of course, that was that an A&E show? I forget what network that was.
Yeah, it was A&E, right?
I think it was A&E.
AMC.
Or AMC. No,
yeah,
that's a movie theater chain. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, then A&E. Yeah, you're right, A&E, yeah.
In any event...
some combination of letters first than A. I don't know.
Breaking Bad was an incredible show. Jim, you and I loved the hell out of that show, and we were so sad when it ended. And so it's kind of a special treat that we're getting a follow-up film to the series.
It was
the
on
film,
AMC.
AMC. Okay, there you go. In any event, the movie picks up where, after the series ends. Spoilers for Breaking Bad, but one of the characters, played by Aaron Paul, Jesse Pinkman, has a follow-up story, apparently, that Vince Gilligan wanted to tell. And this movie was shot totally in secret in Albuquerque. And funny story, a friend of mine several months ago was like, there is a movie titled Greenbrier shooting on my street. They've had my street closed down for 3 days. She was very upset about this. And it turns out Greenbrier was the code name for El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. So they were filming on her street. I guess Aaron Paul was on her street. Didn't realize why he was there. Had I known he was there, I'd be like, Aaron Paul, Albuquerque, gotta be a Breaking Bad project. Yeah, so I'm super pumped to see what happens. Reportedly, there's going to be some cameos from some other Breaking Bad characters. Whether those are flashbacks, whether they're happening in current time, I don't know. Bryan Cranston has dropped some hints that we may not have seen the last of Walter White. I don't know if he's going to be in this film or not, but I'm pumped. I'm stoked.
This one has me intrigued because, after you lit me up for watching trailers for 2 and 3 hours at a time, this is actually one trailer I have not seen.
What?
So, yeah, and I bet you have.
I have. I've seen
for someone who doesn't watch trailers. But, yeah, I am very excited to see this. Matter of fact, right after this show, I might go watch the trailer with you. So, we'll see what happens, where they're going to take this. I know we have the Better Call Saul series that I think is still going on, right?
Yep.
I think we're in between seasons right now.
And it's incredible as well.
And we've enjoyed that. When does this movie come out, Brad? Because
it comes to Netflix October 11th.
Does this mean we have to binge Breaking Bad before October 11th? Because that's going to be hard to do.
I kind of am wondering that. Maybe we just... here's what we can do. How about we just watch the last season? We'll finish Battlestar Galactica, and then we'll watch the last season of Breaking Bad.
All right.
That's like 10 episodes, 13 episodes.
Because we'd never get through the whole season, whole series. No. But I'm excited, definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm excited. It's hard because Breaking Bad is one of those shows that I feel it's one of those rare shows that I think ended, at least for me, perfectly. Like, it did everything that I wanted it to do, and the story ended at exactly the point where I wanted it to. So there's a part of me that's saying I don't need any more of that story. Like, I'm very happy with the closure that I got from it. On the other side of it, I trust Vince Gilligan, the creator, writer, all that. I trust him in his writing, and I would imagine that with Better Call Saul doing well, I don't think that there's like oh man, I've got to hit the financial well of Breaking Bad again because I'm not doing super hot right now. So I feel like he probably wouldn't have made this or tried to get it made if he didn't think there was more story to be told. So I guess I'll kind of come down on it of there's probably a perfect world where if this movie didn't exist, I would be okay. But since it is, I'm kind of excited for it because I think they're going to do the best version of that possible. So yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that, we like Better Call Saul, but compared to Breaking Bad, I just don't think it has the weight, the creative weight that Breaking Bad has. Breaking Bad seemed like groundbreaking television, like almost every week when it was coming out. So I just hope when this movie comes out, it doesn't seem like a second-rate, hanger-on of Breaking Bad. That's my only fear.
Yeah.
I have nothing to suggest that that's going to be the case. I just hope it's as strong as Breaking Bad is, because I did love that show.
Well, I think it's a fair point. We could probably talk about it a lot. As a prequel series, I think Better Call Saul is really straddled with characters who we know to be around during the time of Breaking Bad. And so it's like, oh, what's happening to Jimmy this week? Oh, he's in danger. Well, I know he lives 5 years from now in the Breaking Bad series, so obviously he doesn't die. I think maybe that interferes with some of those stakes and the weightiness. So I'm hoping as a sequel rather than a prequel, this movie will have some of that same chutzpah that Breaking Bad had. In a post-Game of Thrones world, something's got to do it. We'll see. In any event, Jim, what is your next pick?
My next pick is a movie called Uncut Gems by two writer-directors who are brothers, Benny and Josh Safdie, or the Safdie brothers. We've seen several of their movies. The most recent one I've seen that really made a splash with Robert Pattinson was Good Time. I really, really enjoyed Good Time. It's kind of like Good Time is it's one of these really adrenaline-filled kind of movies from beginning to end, where it seems kind of chaotic, but at the same time, it's got really good character development. This one, I'm going to read the synopsis really quick. It just says, set in the Diamond District of New York City, Howard Ratner is a jewelry store owner and dealer to the rich and famous. He must find a way to pay his debts when his merchandise is taken from one of his top sellers and girlfriend. This one stars, of all people, and get this, folks, Adam Sandler. But I don't see this as your typical Adam Sandler movie. And we all know that Adam Sandler has the acting chops hidden away in his self, to be brought out by a great writer and a great director. And if he can pick, when he picks really good material, which, I have my fingers crossed and I'm hoping this one is. I mean, we saw him in Punch Drunk Love. Loved him in that. Saw him in the one we just mentioned earlier. The Will, what was it?
The Meyerowitz stories.
The Meyerowitz stories. I like Adam Sandler when he's restrained and actually plays a real character, and I think we're going to get something like that in this movie. So between the directors, writer-director, who I really love, I think they're really strong, and Adam Sandler, another chance to give a great performance. I think Uncut Gems is definitely on my list of ones to see. Again, this one doesn't open till Christmas Day, and it opens limited. So this is one I'll probably get to see maybe in January, end of January, early February, something like that.
Yeah, this one's interesting because I think this is going to be sort of a deciding film for me in that, like you, I absolutely loved Good Time. One of the best movies of that year, with that remarkable performance by Robert Pattinson and that amazing score by One Tricks Point Never. Just like everything came together to make just like this perfect little movie. Unfortunately, the Safdie movie that I had seen before that was Heaven Knows What, which I wasn't a big fan of. And so,
Brad, you saw that one with me, I think.
Yeah, and so I'm at this point right now where it's like, I want to see what Safdies do, having come off of like the critical success of Heaven Knows What, but I think like the broader success of Good Time. Like, I think they obviously have good movies in them, but I want to see if they can transition that into like a solid set of films going forward, or hopefully not, that it was a bit of a fluke. But like, you're right, like Adam Sandler is one of those guys who probably justifiably gets shit on a little bit because of some of the movie choices that he makes. But between the movies you mentioned, I'd also put funny people in that mix. Like, I think that he can do Gravitas very well when he just like leans into it and allows himself to be kind of like be vulnerable. And yeah, I want to see this. I want it to be so good because I need another good time in my life.
Absolutely.
For a good time, call. ... Anyway,
the Safdie brothers.
Saul.
Yeah. And and again, this one I think opened at one of the recent film festivals. Even now, I had my eye on this movie ever since seeing a really quick clip online. It was kind of one of those, like, somebody took a picture with their iPhone actually on the film set of a quick scene being shot out on the streets of New York City, and I'm like, holy shit, Adam Sandler's in a Safdie brothers movie. I'm going to be watching that. So that's how I heard about this movie. But then I also heard that it got really good response at one of the film festivals here. So something like it was kind of in the vein of Good Time. So,
hey Jim, question for you.
Yeah.
What is the Safdie brothers' favorite dance?
Oh God, Brad, no, don't say what you're about to say.
The electric slide. I don't know.
No, God.
What is it, Will?
It's the Safdie dance. You can dance if you wanna.
You can leave movies behind. And a broke Will.
Dad joke.
Oh, I adore you guys. All right.
Love you.
Well, Jim, another solid choice from you, it seems. Very nice. Will, if you've regained your composure, what is your second pick?
Ooh, all right. Let's do this. Yeah, we were going back and forth on a few kind of before the show, just in terms of like which ones I wanted to pick, just because, holy shit, there's some neat looking genre movies coming out. And just to call out a couple from chat, like Hamstruck says, like Knives Out, Last Blood, The Lighthouse, The Irishman, Parasite. Like, there's a bunch of these movies that are coming out. One that I know, Brad, you and I were both pretty excited about when we were chatting about this beforehand, and this is why it kind of snuck to the top of my list here, is Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Which is a direct sequel to The Shining, the film, the Kubrick film, The Shining. Now, there's some weight that goes along with this because the Stephen King novel The Shining is very different than the Kubrick film The Shining, and when King released Dr. Sleep, the book sequel, just a few years ago, there was a lot of like, well, how is it going to follow this story, knowing that the weight of the film is so heavy on top of it? It does its own thing, and it's good. It's a good book. I liked it. But Kubrick's The Shining is one of my favorite films of all time. So I cannot help but be excited about a sequel for it. Worried because I think that like whenever it's like someone like does a sequel to like one of your precious babies, there's like this little bit of trepidation, just like please don't fuck it up, please don't fuck it up. But looking at the cast here, we've got in the adult Danny Torrance role, which is since it's the sequel to The Shining, this is Torrance all grown up and he's mastered kind of his abilities and he's dealing with the fact that there's maybe other people who have this as well and some stuff that comes along with that. But Ewan McGregor is in that role. He's a solid actor. I think he's got the chops to pull off any major role that we need. But this is directed by Mike Flanagan, and that's the thing that I think has me most excited because this is a guy who, he did Oculus, which I had fun with, but most importantly, he did Gerald's Game. And Gerald's Game is a Stephen King adaptation, and more importantly, for the longest time, it was kind of thought to be like the unshootable Stephen King movie because of like the subject matter of it. Like it wouldn't be very cinematically interesting, and yet he found a way to make it very cinematically interesting. So he has earned so many like positive credits in my book that I think I'm excited to see what he does this. I'm nervous. There's some trepidation, but I want to see Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this as well. I recently found out that a good friend of ours has never seen The Shining before, and I don't know how that's possible. No judgment, but it's a thing. And I found that out because we were seeing, I don't know, what was the last movie we saw in theaters, babe?
Oh my God, it was Ready or Not, I think.
Ready or Not, that's right. Dr. Sleep the trailer played in front of Ready or Not, and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen The Shining before. Isn't it good?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So I think we're going to get together and have The Shining night and introduce him to the film. I haven't seen The Shining in probably, 20 years. I mean, it's one of those films I love so much I don't like to rewatch it because I feel like it dilutes it. Why that doesn't happen with The Princess Bride, I don't know. I've watched that a million times, but The Shining is paramount. It is tantamount. It is some other word with mount in it that means it's incredible. And so to be getting a sequel to The Shining, for me, is really exciting. And I'm glad to see them kind of expanding this world of other people who maybe have this ability as well. And I think this is going to do some cool world building. I don't know if it will continue on from this film, but I can't wait. I'm stoked. I'm trying not to be too stoked because every time I get too stoked, I get too let down. So I'm holding in my enthusiasm.
Hold it back. Let it go. Just don't think about it. Don't dream about it. Don't jerk off to it. Don't jerk off to it. Or whatever.
No. Actually, no kink shaming if that's Brad's thing.
I'm all like, shiny.
Oh, well,
Jesus.
I had to look it up, but the actor who played little Danny Torrance is not the actor playing grown-up Danny Torrance. Because I don't know what the time frame is, but it's been many years since this movie, and I think the actor would be significantly older, right? It's been 40 years since The Shining, so 1980, so figure that out.
Well, no, it was
years.
I mean, Shining was 1980. Ewan McGregor would have been 9 then.
I mean,
yeah,
this is easy. But it came out the year before I was born, babe, and I'm 38, so
yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if the character in the new movie is supposed to be like 50, but that's about how old he would be, right? If they were both in the if you kept the original timeline. Right?
No, the timeline would work out because, think about the actor, right? Ewan McGregor, right?
Let's say he was 10, right?
So if he was 10, then that means he would have been born in around 1970, which is about when Ewan McGregor was born. He was born in 1971.
So he'd be almost 50.
So and so I think Ewan McGregor, there's always a little bit of time compression in this one. I'm sure he's going to be more like playing like a late 30ish type character, but he's not like a fresh out of high school character in this story.
No.
Like this is
no.
And even in the book, this is a guy who's
younger middle age.
He's grown up and he's lived some life.
Yeah.
Hamstracked in the live chat says Obi-Wan Kenobi is Dr. Sleep.
We've got the Force, we've got the Shining. I think there's a connection there. Yeah,
I think it could totally work, right?
Yeah. I just think that the thing that I'm gonna have to do, and I think a lot of people are gonna have to do, is remember that this movie is not The Shining, and this movie will never be The Shining. Maybe it'll be at that same level, but it probably won't be one of the best movies of all time, and that's okay. Even if this movie is just simply good, it doesn't take away from the legacy of The Shining itself. So that's the thing I'm going to have to just kind of remind myself several times going into it.
We just
Question for you guys. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brad.
No, you got it.
All right, hold on to your question. We just don't have many visionaries like Stanley Kubrick running around directing film, horror films, with his vision on it. We just don't really have that. I would say somebody like, Robert Eggers, we might be talking about later. But yeah,
we've got a few like Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, who are but they're both at the couple of features in stages of their career. So it's both fair and unfair to sort of put the weight of are you the next Kubrick on these directors who have both had 2 features under their belt so far. But hopefully we get another one of them. But you're absolutely right. Flanagan is a great workman director, and he does really solid work. But I mean, he's not Kubrick, and it's okay that he's not Kubrick, because only Kubrick is Kubrick.
This is true. Guys, question for you.
Time.
Ready?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What is Ewan McGregor played Danny Torrance's favorite drink?
Wait, say that again?
So Danny Torrance is portrayed by Ewan McGregor. What is his favorite drink?
Red rum. Is that the joke?
That's clever, but that's not the answer.
Yeah. The Kool-Aid?
I'm afraid the answer was a Qui-Gon gin and tonic.
It's not...
That's a deep nerd cut. But I don't know.
I'm going to say that one's not quite the Safety Dance. Safety Dance was delicious. I'm still savoring that one.
Listen.
Safety Dance was Kubrick's The Shining.
That one was purely for Hamstrack's benefit because there was a request in the chat for more dad jokes. So there you go, Hamstrack. That one's for you.
Well, you need to keep throwing them in there because eventually when we reach our 500th episode, maybe we'll do a supercut of Brad's dad jokes and puns. Just have a whole show of those.
Episode 501 is just nothing but puns.
And we'll let Hamstrack be the one who goes in and indexes of all them for us so that we could pull them out.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, Will, sounds like another good choice from you. I'm really looking forward to that one as well. My next pick, interesting you mentioned Robert Eggers, guys, because guess what? My next pick is from writer-director Robert Eggers, who brought us The Witch, which we fucking loved. To this day, that remains one of my favorite horror/suspense films ever. I try to live life deliciously. But this is also in partnership with A24, which makes me do the Safety Dance inside. It makes me really happy. It's interesting, though. This movie is called The Lighthouse, and it's all about these 2 guys who appear to be manning a lighthouse, and it's this super creepy black and white claustrophobically atmospheric turn of the century salty seaman with with a pipe hanging out of his mouth. This looks really fucking creepy and really claustrophobic. Willem Dafoe is in this, who I love. And we've been talking about Robert Pattinson. That guy has come a long way since his Cedric Diggory Harry Potter days and, his Twilight appearances. He's put out some really incredible performances since then. And I don't know. I know he's going to be the new Batman, and that's cool. We'll set that aside. But I'm really jazzed to see him show up here. I don't often like black and white movies. I think the last black and white movie I enjoyed watching was
Roma.
probably Roma. Roma was incredible, and before that, I think it would have been Nebraska. Was that the one with Bruce Stern and
yeah.
So I figure two really great black and white movies in the last 4 or 5 years. It's time for a third. Let's make it a hat trick, and this one's a horror movie to boot. So I'm really excited for this one. Jim, I know you were an even bigger fan of The Witch than I was. Is this one that's been on your radar at all?
Absolutely, and I'm waiting for this writer director to knock my socks off again with something that just totally like unnerves me. He's got, this is a different kind of horror, right? It's not the jump scare horror and the building music to the jump scare kind of thing, or even a scary monster kind of movie. This is psychological thriller brought to like the next level that just unnerves you, and it draws you in and takes you off your nerve there. So yeah, I've definitely I ever since we saw The Witch, I'm like, I can't wait to see what this guy does next, and we're this close to getting it. And Will, I think, is even a little closer, maybe. I don't know. They were talking about this one at Fantastic Fest, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
So, gosh, first of all, I would love that. I'm right there with you guys. I saw The Witch at Fantastic Fest. Saw it a couple of times thereafter. I bought a fucking T-shirt for it, which, like, I can't think of the last time I bought like a T-shirt for like just a movie I had just seen. But I have a Black Phillip shirt. It is not announced as part of Fantastic Fest, but there's always a secret screening and there's still a third wave that has to be announced. So it very well could be in that third wave. And I think that it's, because of its release date, it's one of like a few films that's like in the talks probably for secret screening. But either way, I'm going to see this movie. Like if it doesn't play, whatever, I'm going to see it when it comes out at my local Cineplex, because this movie is, it's definitely looks like it's the goods. I love Robert Eggers. Sort of his sensibilities and his willingness to tell horror that is complicated and inaccessible, yet still making it so compelling that it's not just for like a super niche audience. I think a lot of people enjoyed The Witch, despite that being, I think it's fair to say that that's not a super accessible film. But it's probably one of the most unaccessible films that I've seen recently. And I'm hoping Lighthouse does the same thing. Love Willem Dafoe. He's just one of those dudes who, the more and more genre films he does, the more and more like he's perfectly suited for that. What did we have with him recently? Like, I guess they're not even genre films, but between Florida Project and he did At Eternity's Gate pretty recently, and then going all the way back to some of his stuff with the dude Lars von Trier. Dude's great. Robert Pattinson, I still would argue that he's one of the best actors of his sort of like age working right now. I think he gets a lot of negative press for Twilight, and that's maybe fair. But this year alone, he had both this movie and High Life, the Claire Denis film. He's really great in that. You have Damsel from last year, Good Time from the year before that, Map to the Stars, the Cronenberg film from like 2 years prior. Like, he's been just slowly building up a resume of these like solid indie films. While everyone's still going, what's the Twilight guy doing? He's making great movies is what he's doing. So this is Brad, like, I think you're absolutely right. This is a day one watch, I think, for listeners of the show. Go watch this movie. I think it's super high on all of our radars.
For sure. And thankfully, we don't have a super long time to wait. It comes out October 18th.
Yes, for Halloween. So that would be great. So tell me, do you think there is a tie-in between Willem Dafoe's character Volko from Aquaman and the lighthouse keeper in The Lighthouse? I'm just thinking there might be something there.
So are you saying that Robert Eggers and The Lighthouse are secretly part of the DC universe?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh!
These characters are both salty seamen, so could be.
Speaking of which, Brad, can you tell me a little bit more about that bearskin rug?
Sorry. We'll talk, Will. We'll talk. In any event, let's circle back to the top of our order. Segue. For the last of our picks, Jim, what is your last most anticipated film yet to come in fall/winter 2019?
Well, here's the thing. In going through the list and having to pick 3 movies for this show, there's a lot of movies I could have picked. But I said, how could a list like this be complete about most anticipated films for the end of this year without picking Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker? Regardless of how we feel about The Last Jedi and the previous, what previous movie was? Help me out.
Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens.
And they both have their fans and their detractors of this new trilogy. I definitely want to see how the Rey and Kylo Ren story wraps up. Plus, this is another Adam Driver film, obviously, so it had to make my list. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this goes. It's back in the hands of J.J. Abrams. I'm still hopeful that we're going to get something really special with this movie. And this is another one of those toxic fan bases, right? That, Twitter's going to be lit up. Twitter and Facebook are going to be lit up on this movie when it comes out. And there's no way I'm going to be able to say it's not one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. Because it is. It's probably the biggest movie that's on my list. The largest, I guess, movie. Will it be the best? Time will tell. I hope at least it's the best movie of this Star Wars trilogy. That would be great.
Jim, you said this is the biggest movie on your list. So you're thinking the Star Wars movie is going to have a bigger box office draw than Marriage Story and Uncut Gems?
Maybe together. How's that?
Maybe if Uncut Gems was actually spelled Uncut JIM'. Maybe, I don't know.
Or it's a Jim and the Hologram sequel. No, I shouldn't speak things that I don't want it.
No.
Way to go, Will. We're gonna blame the Gem sequel on you.
Aren't you guys looking for we're gonna be there? Maybe not on opening night, but we talked about this on the last show. We're gonna be there, watch this, probably opening weekend.
We'll be there opening night, I'm sure, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not excited. I have zero excitement for this movie. Like, the new trailer came out, and I didn't even look at, or not the new trailer, the new poster or whatever came out, and I intentionally didn't look at it for 3 days. So it was just like,
people were laughing at the poster because they think it's terrible. I heard they're actually actively laughing at the poster with is it Palpatine on the poster?
Well, Palpatine's nose does look a little weird, but hey.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, honestly, it looks like Palpatine's just doing a line of like Force right off of him. Like,
right? That's probably.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, just like Palpatine with the credit card in the mirror. Just I know. Shit, Palpatine, stop partying so hard.
Babe, I'm glad you're excited, sweetheart, about this movie. I wish that I could force myself to feel that excitement too, but I just can't. I know a lot of people really loved what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. I can't even bring myself to watch that movie again, and I just want to forget all about his involvement with Star Wars. So, who knows? He's got a trilogy coming out, yay! But hopefully, with Abrams back in the chair for The Rise of Skywalker, maybe things will turn around. I don't know. I feel like the title is like pointing at Rey being a Skywalker. I don't know if AJ or JJ is trying to do like damage control after Rian Johnson's like everybody is special, everyone gets a participation trophy take, but we'll see what happens.
I have the same. I both have the same outcome and a completely different reason for it. Because for me, I think The Last Jedi is probably my favorite Star Wars movie. I think that it's just it's encapsulated like what Star Wars does the best. I think Rian Johnson made some amazing choices, and I think that those choices really did something really special with this franchise. And as Hamstrack says in chat, JJ doesn't have a good record when it comes to sticking the landing. I think he also doesn't do a good job of knowing what the landing is going to be until it's time to just start kind of doing it. I think he's way better at his mystery box setup stuff than he is with his like figuring out what's actually in the box. So I'm not looking forward to this because unless it's as good as one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time, it's going to fall flat. And so I'm fairly sure I'm going to walk out of the theater disappointed. I'm going to see it opening night. But it's I don't know. It's hard to say if I'm anticipating it or if I'm just like ready to see it so I can pull off the Band-Aid.
Well, I mean, this film, if it doesn't have a Anakin and Luke in the cloud nebula, like with their arms around each other, saying, Rey, you must follow your destiny, then it'll be a total bust, I think.
Remember.
Oh gosh.
No, but I mean, there were certain things I did like The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. With The Last Jedi, there were some certain things in there that I just felt were kind of rough choices for me. But if I integrate the movie overall, I did enjoy it. So hopefully they'll hit all the right notes in this one. I'm hopeful. Anticipating it, and we'll be there. And of course, I can't wait for that review because I think we'll be able to talk to people about it.
For me, at least, I still have the Rian Johnson trilogy and Knives Out to look forward to.
I just can't wait to see Laura Dern show up again. Oh wait,
Yep.
Our story was already
died.
Wonderful and perfect as it was.
Anyway,
that's a whole different review.
Kevin in the chat says Jar Jar is the true Skywalker. Anakin was a red herring, and oh god, that would make the movie even worse. No. And Hamstruck wants fucking Ewoks.
No, here's a thing that I would be okay
out
with.
Of this movie. If I
oh, nice.
There is so much weight that this thing has to carry for me. Like, I honestly, like, if they made the decision just to go full, like, Return of the Jedi, full Jar Jar, full whatever, I say go for it. Just like if I don't want it to be like what's the right word? Like stoically bad. I think that if it crashes and burn, I want it to do so spectacularly. So I don't necessarily hate the Ewok idea.
So here's the thing. I fucking love the Ewoks. I would be happy if they showed up. This movie, it looks like part of it happens on Endor, so I think if we don't get Ewoks, that would be a mistake. But maybe we'll get Jar Jar coming in with like a giant flotilla full of Gungans, Ewoks, Porgs, and Wookiees to save the day, all Deus Ex Jar Jar style at the end.
But twist, Jar Jar's a Sith Lord, and those are all of his like dark minions.
Maybe. Hamstrack says, with our dissing of the Ewoks, he said, "Hey, I thought this was a bear-friendly crowd," and I asked, "Are the Ewoks really bears? I don't know if they're
They're totally bears. They're little teddy bears.
Furry. They're like they're bear adjacent.
Yeah, with dead eyes.
Bears with black dead eyes, yeah.
Nice, Hamstrack. Except they're not so dead. They're not so dead in the special editions. George Lucas made them blink, so they don't look so dead anymore.
Who is that character in The Land of the Lost? The one that was that looked like an Ewok.
What was his name? Was it Gurgi? I gotta find out.
Gurgi was the Black
Cauldron. Oh, that's Black Cauldron. That's right. He was...
Good pull, Brad. Yes.
Thank you. Let's see. Land of the Lost characters. Chaka. It's Chaka.
Chaka. The Ewoks kind of look... Chaka was kind of almost like Ewoks, I guess.
Chaka looks like Wicket. Looks like Gurgi.
Yeah.
Ichiwawa. All right. Well, we'll see what happens this December when The The Rise of Skywalker comes out. Will, what is your final pick?
Yeah, so my little gay heart could not be content without talking about Little Women on this podcast.
How little?
Very
little?
tiny. They're super diminutive.
What
They're like
scale? O scale? H
Wait,
scale?
this is about the littles? I thought it was about the book.
this is about the littles. No,
We are the
so,
littles.
the Louisa May Alcott's version of the tiny people that apparently live in my like walls and like run around with like needles and like sleep on matchbooks. No, this is the story of four sisters who are coming of age in America, sort of like post Civil War time, and by itself, whatever, Little Women, I like the story. I've seen versions of this movie before and enjoyed them, but whatever. But this specific version of the film is it's got a lot of stuff that I absolutely adore. First of all, it's directed by Greta Gerwig, who is I am in love with Greta Gerwig. Like, she is just one of my favorite people working right now. When she shows up in a cameo role on something, where I found that she directed something, like what she did with Lady Bird, amazing film, or things that she's written. She's sort of like a Renaissance woman who just like puts in solid work, whatever part of a film, before or behind the screen that she does. So she's directing this film. The writer is Sarah Polley, who
Love
we
Sarah
like.
Polley.
Yeah, from a few different things, but most specifically the documentary stories we tell. But the cast on this, let me read off some names. Timothy Chalamet. How do you like some Call Me by Your Name, Timothy Chalamet? How do you like Florence Pugh, who was the lead in one of the best films of this year, Midsummer? Emma Watson is in this. Saoirse Ronan from Lady Bird is in this. Meryl Streep. And Brooklyn. Meryl Streep is in this. Hey, Brad, how about a little more Laura Dern for you?
Ooh, you know what this is, Will? It's like that scene in Avengers Endgame where all the women come together and have their super amazing moment.
I was about to say, this is
a 2-hour moment.
This is like the Avengers for my like super gay heart, and it's aside from the fact that I'm also super into the Avengers. No, I'm so into this cast. Bob Odenkirk's in this. Just like there's so many people that that are just showing up here, and I anticipate this movie probably being in some like end of year discussions. It's a Christmas release. It actually comes out on Christmas Day, which means it's right in that award season pocket. And when you have this cast and this director coming together, unless something goes dramatically wrong, this is definitely one of the movies to look forward to, both from an award season perspective, but also from just like things that I want to like filter through my eyeballs. I'm so excited for it.
I've never read. I have to admit, I've never read the novel Little Women. So it's one of those situations where you have this kind of well-known, historic, iconic novel being made into a movie, and you ask yourself, "Gee, should I try to audiobook or read the novel before the movie, and so that I can contrast and compare, or just go into the movie cold?" On this one, I don't know if I'll have time, but I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this.
One thing you could do, Jim, is there was a movie that came out in 1994 called Little Women. It's the same story. But there's a 1994 version, and it had like Winona Ryder and Kirsten Dunst, Claire Danes, Susan Sarandon, a few other people in it. But it's pretty solid as well. So it's definitely worth the watch. It's sort of in peak Winona, I think that she has a tendency to kind of go off the rails at times, but it's good. And so instead of having to read a whole book, you can watch like a 2-hour
and compare it to that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, babe. The book's only 759 pages. I think you could totally make that work.
How many commutes to work would it take me to digest that audiobook? That's the question.
521 and a quarter.
Yeah. Don't have that many.
Little Women, Big Book.
There you go. All right. Well, sounds like a solid choice from you. Well, I have the joy, I have the honor, I have the, I don't know, something else that makes me feel good, to have the final pick of the show. And my pick, Jim, I don't think you're going to like it very much, but sometimes, even when you're married, you're not always lock in step. My final pick is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers. And Jim, I only mention that because I know, like, it's a little decisive for you.
You've already heard my opinion.
I have. I was there. I man, last year, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I fucking loved that documentary. Ooh, I shouldn't swear when I'm talking about a Mr. Rogers related project.
Right?
I really loved that movie.
Bradley, it's okay to make choices, but sometimes it's okay to make the best choices for you. So just be the best Bradley that you can be.
So
Let
I
your
can
excitement come through in other ways besides curse words.
So I can say fuck whenever I want. Meow meow.
Oh my god.
I'm good with that.
Man, Won't You Be My Neighbor was so great last year, and it touched so many hearts. But as I was watching that documentary, I found myself wishing that there was like time to stick with Mr. Rogers in some of those events and like let them breathe. And I was like, well, how could they do that in a documentary? They can't do that because they have to bring all this footage together. And then I'm like, wait a second. What if they dramatized it? What if they made like a dramatized movie of Fred Rogers' life? And I was like, oh, that'd be so great. And then lo and behold, find out, check it out. There is a drama coming out, dramatizing Fred Rogers' life. I don't know how true to life it will be. I imagine a lot of people will be comparing A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood to Won't You Be My Neighbor. It's only natural that it's going to happen. But I don't know, like, with an election coming up, with the state that our world is in right now, with the dumpster fire that our country has become, don't Dixie chick me, don't tell me to shut up and sing, I can have opinions. Guys, I really need a story of kindness triumphing over cynicism right now, and I hope that this movie gives me all the wonderful feels. I want some trolley in my life. Can we please have some trolley goodness? I'm thinking like an animated like trolley, like a side story thing happening could be really cool. I don't know what they're going to do, but we'll see as of November 22nd when A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood releases. I can't wait.
So you're not going to sing?
Brad, I'm not going to say shut up and sing, but what I will say is shut up and tell dad jokes.
Don't make me come in there with my red cardigan and my shoes, Jim.
I bought tickets to this podcast so I could hear Brad sing his hit "Earl's Gotta Die," but I guess that's not going to happen.
Brad, I agree with you on a couple of points. Number one, I loved "Won't You Be My Neighbor" too as a documentary. I mean, that was an incredible reminder of how things could be and how we could treat each other, you know what I mean, in a nicer world. And also agree with you, like, yeah, as much as I'm not really looking forward to this movie for other reasons, it's, maybe we can't have too much. Maybe there isn't such a thing as too much of this kind of feeling that we can inject into the world, right? Even if the movie isn't that great, isn't a great entertainment on its own, I guess to me it's another way we can have some positivity going on. So yeah, for those reasons, and I'm excited for you being excited about this movie, even though it may not be what I wanted to see happen, but who knows? It could totally blow me away, and I say, you know what? That's as good as Won't You Be My Neighbor for me, and it could be. So we'll see. Jim,
the fact that you're excited for me, does that mean you're comparsing for me and Mr. Rogers?
I am comparsing for you and your Mr. Rogers movie fetish. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm on board for this one. I kind of wish that there had been another year separating it maybe from Won't You Be My Neighbor, just because I think that movie was deeply personal for me and for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really hard to separate the two. And I think the best way to separate the two would have been a little bit of time. But I don't make those decisions, and I can just judge the movie based on what I see when I see it. I have to say the trailer both worked and didn't work for me in that, like, I think the trailer is always going to be a bit of a problem because Tom Hanks is one of those people who isn't like a transformative actor. He's like a settle down into the role actor. And so when you watch the trailer, you don't see him as Mr. Rogers. But I don't think that that's going to necessarily be the case for the movie. I think watching the movie, he'll fade into that role pretty easily. I just think the trailer doesn't give you enough time for it. He's not one of those like caricature actors who can just turn it on. He just kind of settles into his own setup. But anyway, I do like a moment at the end of the trailer that kind of gives me some of those same feels that I got from Won't You Be My Neighbor, and I want to see more of those. I also love the director on this, Marielle Heller. She gave us Can You Ever Forgive Me last year, which took a Melissa McCarthy performance and turned it into one of my favorites of the year, which... Yeah. Who knew? Right. She's not someone I'm usually a big fan of. And yet what they did with her in, or what Marielle Heller did with her in Can You Ever Forgive Me was a revelation. And so I'm happy to have her on board with this. I'm happy to have her working with this material. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Won't You Be My Neighbor. They're two very different things. We can have multiple Rogers. Hell, right now there's a kids show called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood that is remarkably popular and very big with kids. It's an animated version of what's happening with Daniel Tiger going through things. So I'm loving that we're getting... Yeah, I love that we get this like renaissance of Rogers, because you're right. We do desperately need it.
Hashtag Rogers Renaissance.
Yeah, we can't have enough of that right now. But you're right. This may be one of those situations where, Will, you talked about this, Tom Hanks and how he settles into the role versus like transforming into another person or another character. And in the trailer, I saw that. It's like, okay, I see Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers. Instead of just seeing Mr. Rogers. But it could be one of those things where the more time you spend with the performance, like you lose the Tom Hanks and you stick with the Mr. Rogers. Kind of like Taron Egerton did in Rocket Man, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
At first you're like, oh, that's somebody playing Elton John. But 10 minutes into the movie, you're like, I'm totally on board with that performance. So I'm hoping that it's that way for this movie.
Or think about like the last thing. I mean, we've seen other things with Tom Hanks in it, but just like a film like Captain Phillips, right? When I watched the trailers for that, I just saw like Tom Hanks on a boat. And when I watched the movie, the first probably 10 minutes of it, I just saw Tom Hanks on a boat. And Tom Hanks is, really good at, capital A acting. But by the end of the movie, like I just saw Captain Phillips, and so I think that that's probably the same thing that we're going to get here. He's like in terms of actors, I think he's sort of a slow burn in terms of how he tackles his roles.
Hey, would you guys say that
I'm the captain now?
Would you say that the same thing happened with Tom Hanks when he was embodying Walt Disney in the Mary Poppins movie?
The Banks.
What was it? Saving Mr. Banks?
Saving Mr. Banks.
He wasn't in it for that much, though, was he? Just a couple of scenes, I think, right? I don't remember much of that movie, but I think it was mostly focused on her, not him, yeah?
You know which movie he was in that he did not look like Tom Hanks in? Like, not at all? Like, I was watching it, I'm just like, that doesn't look like Tom Hanks. Was Toy Story 4.
Like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Didn't he totally look like a wooden puppet to you?
It was a very transformative role, a very animated performance.
His performance was kind of stiff, I'll be honest.
Stiff and wooden, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, we're a little punchy, which I think means we've reached the end of our time. time for this week. Man, it seems like we just started the show, and that was already like an hour and 13 minutes and 48 seconds ago. Thank you, YouTube timer. But so many great films, seem to be coming down the pipeline. We're heading into Oscar season here. We've got our holiday releases coming. We've been trying to hang on through the drought between like all the summer tentpole movies drying up and, this time of year. So I'm glad we're getting through the wasteland together, guys.
Right. Hey, one movie that wasn't mentioned, and I didn't know if it's even coming out the end of this year. Is Frozen 2 coming out the end of this year?
It is.
Yeah.
None of us mentioned it.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in you, babe.
Well, listen.
Olaf fucked us over.
Here's my thing. When I saw Frozen the first time, it was a press screener. And they had also like given tickets away to families and stuff. And so we had to see it with tons of screaming little kids. And I fucking hated it. And then we saw it again like a week later or something with like a normal audience. And I loved it. So I figure if I hated it the first time, loved it the second time, all right, that kind of balances out. So from Frozen, I go to the whatever the fucking Olaf short thing that came out was.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I'm starting to like judge it based on that, right? Because I've had a wash. Well, I fucking hated that. So now I'm in the purely negative column when it comes to any kind of excitement for Frozen 2. I hope because it's a full-length animated feature, it's going to be a lot better. But I just wasn't feeling confident enough to even remotely put it on my list. Sorry.
Okay.
It's interesting because, I mean, Frozen has baggage with it. I mean, part of what we think about when we think about Frozen is people that have a negative feeling of Frozen. Some of that might be based on the movie, whatever, I liked it. But I think there's some of that that just comes from how overplayed Let It Go was for a bit. Like, it was one of those songs that you could not escape, and it sort of drove people crazy. And it's both fair and unfair to have negative feelings about the movie based on that alone. But there's so many movies coming out, guys. Like, it's great that we scratched the surface between Ad Astra and the Scorsese movie, The Irishman, which I'm super excited for. Ryan Johnson's Knives Out, and of course, movie of the year, Cats. Like, there's a lot of things.
Frozen is the new Cats.
I don't know.
Gosh.
I haven't made a Twitter Stan account for Frozen yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, goodness. Jim, Kevin says you just need to let it go.
I do need to let it go, but we will probably see it at some point.
I'm sure we will, and hopefully it'll be good, but we'll
midnight
fucking
screening
see.
where there's no kids there.
Do you want a bearskin rug, Jim?
Yeah.
I think it's just hard for me to look forward to Frozen 2 in summer. Get it? No? Okay.
Yeah, you need the weather to cool off a little bit.
I mean, we all live in southern states, so it is one of those things where it's just like the idea of like a Christmassy wintering movie when it's still like 100 degrees outside, even though it's September. Like, there's some discordance there.
It's tough. It is. All right. Well, listen, we're at the end of our show for this week, but that doesn't mean the conversation has to end. Luckily, we are on social media, and I say luckily for us because we love interacting with you folks in between the show. So if you'd like to chat movies, if you want to keep the conversation going, if you're listening to this show 3 years from when it was recorded originally, and you're like, oh my God, I have picks for 2019 that I didn't get to share 3 years ago. Well, guess what? It's not too late. You can still do it. Reach out to us on Facebook. Just find Movie Bears Podcast on YouTube. Also, individually, if you want to chat, we can do that too. Jim, where can people find and chat with you safe for work online?
Sure. Find me talking about mostly movies on Twitter at JJP Out West. That's at JJP, my initials, Out West. Also, find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right, excellent. And Will, where can folks interface with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at whatever cove. You can find me on Facebook. My name is William Lindis. Just send me a message so I know who you are, and so that I know that you aren't just some random bot. You can look for me on letterboxd.com as well. I log a bunch of movies there, like a bunch of movies. I need to go through and do a count sometime, including a new series of reviews that I'm doing there that are once a week. I'm doing an LGBTQ film review, and I've been having a lot of fun with that project. So please follow me there and join the conversation.
All right, and you can find me on Twitter at iBradPro, or look for me on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I am the Brad Harris that does not have a Confederate flag behind him, so it should make it easy for you to tell us apart. Also, I probably have Bear, Chubb, and Chaser friends in common with you. So, like Will mentioned, if you could send me a message first, that would be great. I've had some people randomly add me, and I'm like, oh, fucking hot Bear, but I don't know if I should accept. It's probably a bot because they're getting so smart. But then my dick wins out, and I add them anyway. And luckily, they're nice people and not bots. But save me a little trouble if you don't mind. That would be great.
I know that you said you were the one with Bear friends or whatever, but all I heard in my brain was like, I am the one who knocks, and we're in Breaking Bad territory.
I am the danger.
What I heard is that his dick makes his decision on who becomes friends or not.
I mean, I'm a human male.
His dick went out.
I will fully embrace that. Yes.
Hold on, let me just. I'm gonna look for Brad Harris on Facebook real quick. Okay, I see one with a beard and a wizard hat right now. Of course, if you're looking at this super in the future, that's not going to be the case. But if we're talking in real time, there is a wizard hat, and all right, let's just see here. He is. Oh, look at all of those bear friends. Yep, you're right.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I'm so glad that we got to get together like this, guys, and have a chat about films we're excited to see coming down the pipeline. It was great hanging out with everyone in the live chat as well. Hamstracked, Kevin, Ryan, everybody else who was with us. Sometimes that chat moves kind of quick. We aren't always able to keep up, but it sure was fun having you along for the ride. And for those of you listening through the magic of digital tape delay, we love you just as much. And we appreciate you leaving us a review in iTunes, Spotify, accessing us, whatever works for you. This is the 336th episode of the Movie Rares podcast. There's a lot of episodes out there. And guys, I don't know if you know this, we've crossed into September, which means we are just a few months away from our 7-year anniversary.
Lucky 7.
Wow. And it'll probably be. We always do what it's in December. It's going to be Star Wars probably as that one. It's usually Star Wars film now.
Yeah. Well, it's a little later this year though. It's December 20th, and our anniversary falls the weekend, like around the 12th or the 13th.
We could do Jumanji.
Oh God!
The first Jumanji, the last Jumanji was better than it had
That's true.
Right to be.
We liked it.
Isn't it weird though that like the new one's coming out and even us all kind of liking the last one, and we're all kind of nervous about this next one.
I know.
I don't know if we can shake that name.
How does that work, right? Yeah.
But it's exciting. We've been together for 7 years. Here's to 7 more from that, I guess we're not there yet, but
we're getting there.
We're getting there.
All right, folks. Well, we will see you all next time. Have a great week. Enjoy, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.